Hi everyone. So I just got a comment from one of my viewers. He's having some RSI troubles. RSI meaning repetitive strain injury problems. He's getting pain when he's using his Intuos, and yeah, it's actually getting in the way of his drawing. So he actually provided a video of himself drawing, and I instantly noticed um, pain in the wrist, and I also noticed that the way that he was drawing was something like this. He's doing a lot of, well, let me just get this camera properly positioned. Okay, so, well, in my case, my tablet is not, it's vertical, but the thing is that it's like, you can see how I draw with my arm, so it's not a problem. He's drawing laterally like this, and he's using his fingers to do a lot of the drawing. He is moving his arm around, but then he does this, lots of this. And all of this, anytime you're opening and closing and flexing, if you're clenching, any of that stuff, it's going to, you can see all the tendons. Look at this tendon going up and down. I don't know if you can actually, here. I'm a walking anatomy lesson. All right, look, you can see that there's something going up and something going down. There are tendons in there, right? You pull on the strings and it causes the fingers to clench. And when you're doing this activity, this is causing, well, there's something called the carpal tunnel. It's this little ligament, or it's a little tube, and all of the tendons run through that tube. And every time you pull and push and pull and push, it causes abrasion, the general abrasion of that tube. And yeah, it leads to that kind of wrist pain, and pain that radiates, just goes all the way up and down your arm. And it will, with enough repetitive usage, you're just going to screw your arm up. You're going to, yeah, it's going to be debilitating, and you're not going to be able to draw. So you've got, people are going to be like, well, I'm behaviorally used to drawing that way, and that's the only way I know how to draw. And I'm like, look, buddy, if you're in pain, you're not drawing, right? So you either mend your ways now and learn to draw in a way that you can sustain and draw and over and over, or there's the pain, right? So one of these things is going to stop you drawing. So what I always suggest is you draw using your arm, and the purpose of finger clenching is simply to hold the stylus. That's all it's for, and it's used to maybe reposition the stylus, so we can use this. We can use our wrists and our fingers to change the angle of the stylus according to, how we need it, because these things have like these tablets can sense angle. So you use it to change the angle, but once you've got that, you lock. Like you're not using these fingers to draw. You don't draw like that. Okay? You don't that's a no-no. All right? Don't do that, because that causes the flexion and the pulling of the tendons through the carpal tunnel, and it causes additional wear. And you won't notice it right away, but years down the road, or maybe months down the road, or just after a few weeks of it, you're going to start noticing it. And so you've got to break that habit. You have to not do it. Now, another thing I've noticed, and this isn't the case of the viewers. That wasn't. It's not. I'm not noticing him actually applying a whole lot of extra pressure. Pressure is another thing. So the way in which your tablet is set up is extremely. This is a really big factor. So let's get this thing to show my Cintiq. Okay, excellent. So let's turn that off so we get some CPU speed back. And so what I have here is I've set up a special brush which shows with color. You can see that if I push very, very lightly, we get a dark kind of red graph, and it actually turns black. It also shows the number next to it, but the number kind of just mashes and blurs out. But what this does is it shows a white whenever I fully get all the pressure out of this thing, right? And the thing about this tablet, this is one of the older tablets that has 1024 levels of pressure. That's what's advertised. And when you get a pure white, I guess that's like your black line, and people are always trying to get pure black lines. And I've noticed that in order to get that white, you have to push pretty hard, or you have to hold your stylus like vertical like this. And you got to push pretty hard to get that white, to get that pure, like max pressure, where it starts to just clip out. And that's dumb. That's dumb. Why not just have a setting, have a brush which ignores pressure? If you want to be using pure black lines all the time, turn off the pressure sensing. I've got like a thing where I can hit a button and then just ignore pressure altogether. But for those of you who don't have driver hacking capabilities, make a brush set which doesn't use pressure. Just unhook those settings. Go into Photoshop and just turn off those checkboxes. And don't use pressure if you're don't use your pressure sensing. Take those 120 those 1024 or 2048 pressure levels and just throw it out the window. Yeah, I know you paid hundreds of dollars for that tablet to get all those levels, but if you're trying to get pure black lines and you're trying to do inking, turn that off. Turn it off, because you got to push really hard. When you're pushing really hard, well, guess what? Pushing hard also requires, look what it requires. It requires your fingers and your wrist to get in on the action. So that extra pressure also puts a lot of strain, not just on your carpal tunnel, but it also affects your elbow, it affects your shoulder, it affects your whole damn arm, and it wears down the tips. And people are complaining about why are their screens getting all scratched up. Turn off the damn pressure. And then just while we're here, trying to make use of those 1024 pressure levels, really hard, really difficult. Right? Most times, if I just try to get, let's say, a smooth max out gradient, it's really difficult. It's extremely difficult to get a nice gradient going up, and then try getting a gradient going down. Oh man, it's it goes in these little steps, right? You can see these little plateaus. Okay, so the only way you're going to get smooth gradation is you use something like a tablet smoother. That's what I've got. I've got a driver thing, which, or you use something Lazy Nezumi, which can smooth out the input. That's the only way. And those 1024 or 2048 levels of pressure, it's not really usable. It's not really usable. It's salesmanship. They're trying to sell you based on statistics. They're trying to sell you on the numbers, and it's like, oh wow, it has more pressure levels. It's like somehow that makes it better. It doesn't. It's functionally not going to help you, right? This was a $900 tablet back in the day, right? So you're just not going to be able to get that kind of pressure control, and there's a few reasons why. It's like, in this case, I'm drawing. This tip of this stylus is a pressure scale. It only can detect pressure going up and pressure going down in the axis of the barrel. That means that when you're drawing like this, well, you're pushing the tip into the barrel. It's one of the reasons why it's so erratic, right? If you're pulling this direction, now you're relieving pressure. So, and then the other thing is that if you're at an angle, right? So if you're stabbing straight down, up and down, I guess it doesn't matter so much. The more angled you are, your tip is, the more variance you're going to get. So if you're drawing circles like this, right? Look at this. I'm pushing into the tip. I'm pulling out of it. So if I try to, this is going to be kind of tricky because this thing is layer. Let me just orient this thing 90 degrees. There we are. So if I draw let's put that back to where it was. If I draw a circle and just try to maintain, right, if I just try to maintain the same pressure all the time, you'll notice it's brighter up top and darker on the bottom, right? Because I'm pulling out. Right? You can see that the pressure varies. I'm gonna just try to brace it against my fingertip just to make sure. Let's see. Trying to get that even pressure. That's about the only way you can do it. Right? So you're going to have to adopt like a really kind of special grip if you're trying to maintain a certain level of pressure and move in a certain way. It's not easy. So if you want to get that maximum pressure where it clips out and goes to white like that, then what you have to do is, if I use just a regular type brush like this and I want it to go max pressure, I have to go into the power settings, and you'll see in the profile editor, I make it so that it caps out early. It caps out at half of the pressure. I don't use the full range. It's like I'm only using 512 levels of the pressure. After that, I make it so it maxes out early. And that way I can get, I can get a quick max pressure easily. And I don't have to like push really hard to do it. So these tablets, these pens, these styluses, they're capable. They're capable of measuring extremely high levels of pressure. But it doesn't, and out of the box, when you get these things, factory settings, they map 1-to-1, the pressure of your brush stroke versus like the pressure of the physical pressure on the pen of your brush stroke to the virtual pressure, what's actually going on to your canvas. They map it 1-to-1 based on the scale of the pen. But that scale, like the people who make the digitizers and the people that make the pens, are two separate divisions. And the amount of pressure, the maximum pressure to cap out one of these pens, like to max that pressure out, get that 100% pressure, that 10/24th level of pressure, is mechanically unsuitable for the tablet. It will exceed what your nibs can handle. They will grind down. This nib still looks pretty much brand new because I've adjusted my pressure setting, and it will exceed what the glass or the plastic, which they're making the screens out of nowadays, it will exceed what they can handle, and you're going to get some wear and tear on your screen. You're going to get wear and tear on your nibs. You're going to be going through pens. People are always complaining, why is it that their pens are breaking down? Wacom doesn't make them like they used to. Why do I feel all this wrist pain? Change your damn settings.